This lecture has been made available to you courtesy of the American Numismatic Society.
We have here with us Professor Cristian Gazdac, who is an associate professor at the University of Cluj-Napoca in Romania at the Faculty of History and Philosophy, where he teaches classes on Roman economy and numismatics, of course, and the analysis of military conflicts in antiquity. He received his PhD from the University of Oxford, where he studied coin circulation in Roman and post-Roman Dacia and the adjacent province from Middle and Lower Danube. And since then, he has published a great number of monographs. He created a monograph series which is called Coins from Roman Sites and Collections of Roman Coins from Romania, for a total of 13 volumes. And his latest monograph, just to be short here, on the Arcalia hoard was published this year and gives the title to this talk. He's also involved in a series, in several international projects, among which coin hoards of the Roman Empire. So, as I said, much more could be said, but I leave the stage to Cristian. So thank you, Cristian, for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to give a talk to the long table. Actually, it's always a true privilege to speak to the ANS long table as my second time here. So the moment Lucia made the invitation, I was thinking about something that actually struck me in my last, let's say, oh my God, 30 decades of research, like what I was taught during my undergraduate years in the university, and then confronted on the field with the very, very hard reality. And I thought, oh my God, I was totally wrong before just listening at the university. And that's why today my talk will not only come, let's say, with academic purposes, but also with a new interpretation, new methodology that always struck us meaning here historians, numismatists, and archaeologists when regarding a coin hoard. And that's why in the abstract of my conference, I was mentioning the last decades. In Romania, we have this kind of booming movement of metal detecting, because I'm also government expert in antiquities and retrieving antiquities that were smuggled from Romania. And at the moment, I can tell you that we have a population of officially 12 million people. Okay, 3 million living and working abroad. We don't talk about those. But at this population, I have officially recorded 32,000 metal detectorists. So this comes with results, a lot of results, and part of my talk is actually based on metal detectorists. Now, the advantage, to put it like this, working with metal detectorists, in many cases, they don't know what they found, actually. And they made them, I talk here about the honest detectorists, and that made them to provide us all the artifacts that were found in one spot. And you'll see that may change the academic interpretation sometimes. But then allow me to proceed, and that's why my talk, it's called Minted by Romans, Hoarded by Non-Romans. Hoarding in Roman, ... or ... post-Roman Dacia, which is broadly Romania. So for those less familiar, let's show, now it's working. Please, Ryan, let me know. It moved to the next slide. Perfect. So when we talk about Roman Empire, and I hope you see the mouse moving on the screen,
We see everything.
the purple line, that's approximately the border of the Roman province of Dacia. And for those less familiar, it's something like, now you see the modern border of nowadays Romania, and to have an image what was the Roman province, as that's what you see here. So that's the Roman province. Why so special about this province? Not just because I'm a local patriot, of course, but also Dacia, let's put it metaphorically, is the last province to be conquered by Romans, and the first one will be abandoned by them, because as you have seen in the previous map, it's right in the middle of the barbarian world. So for that reason, and also for the extremely rich ores of gold and silver, Dacia was one of the most heavy militarized provinces of the Roman Empire. And at the moment, we are actually aware and have documented over 100 auxiliary forts in Dacia. Not to mention that Dacia is among the very few Roman provinces that have two permanently legionary legions stationed here. One, the 13th Gemina in Apulum, now the Alba Iulia. The second one, the 5th Macedonica Legion in Potaissa, nowadays Turda. I have to say here that you can see they're actually very close. In fact, there are only 60 kilometers between the two garrisons. In fact, they are guarding the gold mine areas of Roman Dacia. So, in this case, with so many threats around the Roman province, so many military presence, I can give you here now the situation of hoarding in this province. Now, and in order to say, okay, it was a province, but already back in the late 60s, beginning of the 70s, the very famous scholar Michael Crawford was mentioning the largest number of coin hoards that were ever being found after the Italian peninsula was actually Dacia, the territory of the Dacian kingdom, which at that time was not yet conquered by the Romans. The conquest of this area happened following two fiercely fought wars. In AD 101 to 101, 102, and the second Dacian war of 105, 106 in the time of Trajan. So before, there was no Roman occupation. However, we do have the largest number of pre-Roman coins, hoards, in a territory outside of the Roman Republic and then Roman Empire. I mean here the 1st century AD. According to the largest database at the moment, that it's open access and it's a very large project named Coin Hoards of the Roman Empire, run by the University of Oxford, as you can see, under the direction of Professor Christopher Haujego. Now we can look in a comparative way what means a territory before, during, and after the conquest of by the Roman Empire. So here it is, the pre-Roman province with Republican coin hoards. As you can see, that's the area. So a large number, practically over 100 Republican hoards. When I say Republican hoards, it means it's ending conventionally with the issues of Octavian or Mark Antony. Then the same database, coin hoards of the Roman Empire, clearly is identified the pre-Roman imperial hoards, so ending in the time of Domitian, 81 to 96. Why? Because if we take it literally, okay, Trajan, they may have actually been buried later during the Roman provinces. However, of course, you can see here what means a territory in a pre-Roman state, and next, you can clearly see the difference for the period when Dacia was a Roman province, and of course, it was part of the Roman imperial monetary system with goods and bad consequences, as you can see, the largest number of the coin hoards. So what does it mean then when you have a post-Roman territory, which for Dacia, according to written sources, ancient literary sources, the abandonment took place in the second half of the 3rd century, around AD 270. And I give you here the post-Roman coin hoards in the area of Middle and Lower Danube, according to the Coin Hoards Project. So you see here the 3rd and the 4th century AD, and I took permission to go a bit further to the 5th century AD, clearly, let's say it now, as an empty area of Roman administration. So that's a short timeline to see what means a pre-Roman, a Roman administrative territory, and a post-Roman territory, all based on coin hoards. And until now, I have followed the methodology when I divided the hoards according to the latest coins. And here comes now the first case of the specific title of today's talk, the hoard found in this area, the hoard named after the village where it was found, the Arcalia hoard. The Arcalia hoard, which is, as already mentioned by Lucia, it is already published in January this year in the series that Lucia kindly mentioned here. And here comes the first aspect. And I have to say that in preliminary studies, let's say, maybe you think it's not nice of me, but I did it, to be honest. I use in my preliminary studies and talks in the country with Romanian scholars, the fact that how this hoard was actually discovered, circumstances of discovery, and I give you here the fact that the metal detectorist, a man of common sense, he found 32 silver coins, which you can see the graph here, like what you see here is from Titus to Septimius Severus. Now imagine the reality. I received a phone call around 9 p.m. from a colleague from the local museum where the guy went with the coins to get the reward for it. And he said, look, can you sign me a certificate of expertise on this 32 denarii? And I said, okay, I can do it next days. Send me the pictures, but can you tell me at least now what you have? And he said, okay, I have silver denarii, and it's from Titus to Septimius Severus. And I said, okay, it's something normal for Roman Dacia, of course. And he said, yeah, but what's the event that led to the burial or the hiding of this hoard? And I said, I'm sorry, but you have 32 denarii found in a wood by a metal detectorist, and let's not get too fast to the important historical event. So I said, okay, send me the picture as soon as possible. And then keep in mind, you see the graph and you see it's Titus to Septimius Severus. So let's say the date, the latest coin would have been 193 through 211. So let's say in the time of Septimius Severus or very first years of his son Caracalla, 211, 270. But in the next 2 days, I received the pictures of some of these coins, and I give you here a sample of how those denarii looked like. When I saw the coins, I thought, are they all 32 in this state of preservation? And he said, yes, they all look the same. Well, I said, for the coins from Titus to Septimius Severus, here we can see from Trajan to Septimius Severus, the 3 coins, they are extremely worn out. They shouldn't look like this. So, what was the tricky part? Then I asked the archaeologists, would you be so kind and go back to the find spot and check the entire area with the metal detectorist and do some archaeological testing system? And he said, okay, I will do it in the next couple of weeks, waiting for a better weather, because it happened in December 2022. And you don't want to do archaeology in December in Romania, Transylvania, believe me. It's called polar archaeology. So, okay, so in March next year, he went to the spot, metal detecting and archaeology. And here comes the best of the best surprises. Now the hoards, it's over 100 coins. But here comes the beauty. Look at the new graph, and you see something in yellow. After Septimius Severus, you get 2 silique of Constantius II. So you have a gap of how many years? Let's say about 140 years. And check how the 2 silique state of preservation looked like. They are freshly minted. You can say so. Look at them. Not only they are freshly minted, but they come same type and same mint from Sirmium, which is nowadays the city of Sremska Mitrovica in Serbia, the closest main mint to the find spot of this hoard, as you will see on the map. And this is not all. When archaeologists, beside excellent training, beside excellent and accurate excavation of the place, he's also lucky, then you get the perfect cocktail for excavations. Right at the bottom of the pit, where the main part of the hoard was found, including the silique, right at the bottom comes this artifact, the beautiful belt shoe buckle of silver, type Schulze Goldman A7. But the funny part is the dating. 300, 400 AD, and the ethnic attribution, it belongs to the Huns, the migrator that comes from Asia in the Chernyakov culture, to put it like this. So that was kind of wow. So what was the part I was playing tricky with my Romanian colleagues? Well, based on the phases of discovery of the hoards, I went to present to different conferences in the country with the same, using the methodology, as I said, in my undergraduate years, right, in university. So I presented what the metal detectorists found, the 32 coins ending with Septimius Severus. And I was playing dumb, saying, why was this hoard buried under Septimius Severus, as we were taught at the university back in the 90s? And guess what? Everybody started making connection with different kind of the civil war of Septimius Severus against Pescenniu Niger, against Claudius Albinus. What if there were invasions of the Germanic tribes of Hoarding and Marcomannic in the north of Dacia? And then I said, well, I can't say it doesn't exist, but thanks to the archaeologists, actually look at the hoards now. You see, we actually have Siglique of Constantius II, minted in 351 to 355, and a shoe buckle of silver that belongs to the Huns. So actually what we thought before, and if the archaeologists would never have went back to the spot, we would believe that Septimius Severus, that was a terminus post vem for this hoard, which in fact is 150 years later, proved by the latest artifact in the hoard. More than this, with the new discovery, I came across, because then I got the coins actually, I came across to nothing more than cast coins. Something that for hoards ending with Septimius Severus in the province of Dacia, they were not even identified. So I have worn out genuine coins and I have cast denarii, which something says, oops, this is definitely nothing typical for Roman province of Dacia. Certainly, a comparative pie chart in this case will tell us the proportion between genuine, cast, and barbarous coins within the hoard. So, when I was mentioning methodological issues with this hoard, I was referring precisely like, if I give you the first 32 denarii found by metal detectorist when he stopped and he went to the museum, according to the latest coin, let's say 99.9% of numismatists would have said, okay, it was hidden, buried in the time of Roman province, between 211, let's say, and 270. But when the archaeologists went back and did a proper excavation of the place with archaeological investigation together with metal detecting, and clearly our hoards can be dated now after 350 AD, it changed everything about what we knew about the place. That's how we would look at the map of the middle fourth or second half of the 4th century AD at the middle and lower Danube, and there it's where our hoard is actually located, very far from the Roman frontier. And here is Sirmium, the meat of the two Siligua, the most important meat in the mid-4th century in coin supply in this area. So our hoard has absolutely nothing to do with the Roman province or with the Roman period in the Roman province of Dacia. Of course, some of you will say, okay, it's a single case, and yes, it can happen. Well, here again, I go back to my friends, metal detectorists, the good guys, who, in fact, in this last 10 years, they come up, for instance, with another hoard with 20 denarii, going also up to Commodus in this case. As you can see, the coins are extremely worn out, and they end up with the latest one with Commodus, 180 to 192. Now, the problem will be like, okay, the location of the second hoard is no more than, it's 10 kilometers that make around 8 miles south of the previous hoard. But it's just Commodus and worn out. However, talking with the metal detector, he said, oh, I forgot to tell you something. The coins were actually on top of an iron axe head, but it was extremely rusty, so I thought you may not like it. And I said, where is that one? And here it is, in fact, the iron axe, on which he said he found the coins that were placed on top of this. Now, the part is that this type of axe, according to a Russian scholar that has a PhD in iron axes of the 3rd to the 9th century AD, this is typical, guess what, for the mid-second half 4th century AD in the area of Chernihiv culture. A very typical iron axe head used not only in woods, but especially as a battle axe. Then the archaeologist I was working, he said, oh, I have to say that 300 meters from the find spot of this hoard, this small hoard, we found about 2 years ago the following pendants, the gold pendants you can see here, which of course they are also characteristic for the 4th and early 5th century AD. And to have everything said beautifully, the archaeologist said, I have to confess that also these pendants, they were buried together with this axe. So that's the axe found with the pendant. And they are all buried, hidden, 300 meters from the hoard. So now you can see actually we have a kind of horizon of hoards of Roman denarii, but with very late artifacts, silique or battle axes or golden pendant. And here, thanks to my very good colleague and friend, Kirilo Mizkin, I have a perfect, wonderful analogy coming from Ukraine, where I give you here the hoard from Bujin, where again they found that amount of Roman denarii were now with belt buckle, late belt buckle, digitized silver brooch, but also the iron head axe, as you can clearly see here. So it was quite clear we have now a trend at the end of the 4th century. And in this case, I would like to present one of the very recent, last year, in the second half of the last year, of another hoard discovered in Transylvania, also by metal detecting, where you have silver fragments of a vessel and a belt buckle, but a large number, 135 silique of Constantius II of the same time, Votis 30, Multis 40s, all minted in Sirmium. So it's quite clear that we have a new horizon. What does it mean now? And I took permission to use a wonderful map done by Arek Dimovsky, Kirilo Mskin, where they included different horizons of Roman coin hoards that were actually buried much later in the Chernyakov culture. And as you can see now, our hoards I was mentioning, Arcalia, Poshot, the one with Siligue, Miercurea Sibiului, practically they are right on the edge of the limits of the western limit of the area of the culture. So practically has nothing to do with the Romans, but these hoards actually were hidden, buried by non-Romans owners. To have a clear clue, we go back to the coin hoards of the Roman Empire and to compare these hoards from Transylvania with the rest of the hoards. And according the coin hoards of the Roman Empire at the moment, because we still enlarge the database, we have 277 hoards of coins, with the coins minted in the 2nd or the beginning of the 3rd century AD, but dated their burial moment, the hiding moment, either in the 4th or 5th century AD. From this 277, we have 44 hoards with coins minted in the 2nd, 3rd century, but with artifacts dated in the 4th and 5th century, plus 24 hoards that, in fact, they also comprising imitations. So that's why what you found actually in Transylvania fit perfectly with already established horizon of Roman denarii in Barbaricum during the culture Wisbach, Przewóz, or Chernyakov culture. Practically, to come to the end of my talk, now it is very, very important, especially, let's say, for this area of Central Southeast Europe. But when we come across coin hoards containing coins that were minted in the 1st, 3rd century, we have to ask and we have to look for features that it may actually attribute this hoard to Chernyakov culture, so to non-Romans owner. And here are some elements that I would like to draw the attention, how to identify such hoards, which were clearly minted in the Roman Empire, but they were buried by non-Roman outside the Roman Empire. And in this a special case of Dacia or Romania, because of the historical background, it's very important to clearly point out whether a hoard that may end up with coins from Antoninus Pius to Septimius Severus, it's clearly buried in the time of the Roman province of Dacia, or in fact, it's a much, much older hoard that may belong to Cherniakov culture. So here it is that the coins minted in the first, third century, the denarii, will definitely show a high level or of wear, being worn out. Then the container, when this survived, usually dates the hoard in the 4th and 5th century AD. And in fact, the presence of the artifacts dated within the 4th and 5th century AD, not to mention the presence of imitations or copies by casts or barbarous coins. So all these four main features may define a hoard that in fact, despite the latest coin, it may have been buried more than 100 years later, and the owner was never a Roman at the end. So thank you very much for your attention and patience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cristian. This was really super interesting. Okay, we have a question from Laure. I don't know if she wants to ask it in person. Otherwise,
I can I can ask it. Sorry, I was having lunch at the same time. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you perfectly.
Yes. So thank you so much for this very interesting talk. I had a question about the micro context, the archaeological context. Where were the two Constantius coins and the buckle discovered in relationship with the earlier denarii? And then do you think the detectorists had discarded them or missed them? Do you know what happened there? Thank you.
Sure. I think the easiest way to answer is to kindly ask you to download the book from my academia.edu page, because it's open access. And there I describe, thanks to archaeologists, the entire stratigraphy and the events, how all the coins have been discovered. For all here, I have to say that now, meaning the last 10 years, 15 years, sorry, because of our new legislation on metal detecting, the finders, they are entitled between 30% and 40% of the evaluation of the hoards. So they get a bonus if they submit what they found in 72 hours to the authorities. So this one, that's why when the metal detectorists started to metal detect and the coins were coming up, popping out, it was in the wood near few trees, right, he mentioned quite on the surface with metal detecting, because if you are not actually let's say, a professional treasure hunter, usually metal detectors, they don't go deeper than 50 centimeters. I'm terrible with inches, sorry. So in that case, the moment he had this 32 denarii, well, he stopped because he realized he came across a hoard. So immediately next morning he went directly to the museum, spoke with the archaeologists, and he said, probably there are more, but I stopped. And that was fantastic. Why? Because when the archaeologists went back with the metal detectors and another 12 enthusiast youngster that want to excavate under his supervision of the archaeologists, then they opened trenches and they went directly with one trenches under the tree, because some of the coins, came out from the roots of a tree. So they remove actually the tree, and like it's always the case, it was quite clear, they identified the peat there. And in the pit, the archaeologists starting to use tools, small tools, to establish the fact that the nucleus of the hoard was there. And right at the bottom of the pit, a pit that actually it's not bigger than, in centimeters, not bigger than like 40 centimeters in diameter and deeper than 20, right at the bottom, he found a siligua on top of the shoe, the silver shoe buckle. And of course, surrounded by denarii. So it was quite clear for the stratigraphy and nothing else. So there is no inhabitancy in the very nearby vicinity. In fact, as I mentioned in the book, you will see where are the traces of a possible Roman settlement in the area. It's about 1.4 kilometers from the spot. So it was quite clear that the hoard was buried in that area next to the tree, and during centuries, because of weather condition and it's a bit of slope, some of the coins start sliding on the slope. The fact there was no container at that found at that place, of course, will make us to think about an organic material that didn't survive. However, I can't tell exactly what it is, but it was quite clear, and I hope from the book, because I give even the map made by archaeologists. It's a very detailed, illustrated context. It was quite clear we have one nucleus, and we are certain that all the coins have been retrieved from the hoard. And of course, I am not going under suspicion that the metal detectors didn't submit all the coins he found.
Thank you very much. We have another question from Ralph Mattison. He wants to ask it in person. Yes.
Yes, here I am. Thank you so very much for that. And I also thank you on behalf of a PhD student I have who's doing a dissertation on the Gepids and is working on coin hoards. In fact, she was in Romania a couple of years ago, and I'll pass this information on to her. This pattern of coins up, as you say, up to about the year 200, being found very worn in hoards, as I'm sure you know, is you don't just see it in Dacia. For example, in Scandinavia with the Robedale hoard, a 293 very worn coins, and I'm wondering and I've always wondered about these kinds of hoards, why there are no coins from intervening years. The two coins you had of Constantius were just so nice. And I'm wondering, my question, are these coins, or what we consider to be coins, are they still circulating as coins, or are they just circulating as a convenient form of silver bullion that happens to be of the same weight?
Yes, thank you very much. I didn't want to go in detail for the economic aspects. I was insisting of what is very important for us not to consider hoards always ending with latest coins up to Septimius Severus being buried by Romans. But for that, absolutely, you're absolutely right. And I think, but he's not here at the moment. The best person to answer to this question is for definitely Professor Alexander Bursze from Warsaw, who actually with Kirill Mizgin and Alek Dymowski, because that was their main question after seeing hundreds of hoards, exactly as you mentioned, in the area of Wismar, Przeworsk, and Cherniachov culture, of course, going to the north to the Baltics. And exactly what they said is it looks like they will serve as bullion, more than just simple coins. And that will make sense also for the cast copies and imitations of such coins, which was really worth doing, no matter who's on the coins and no matter that you can't read it anymore. However, what I think it's somehow specific because of location, these two hoards, which I showed today, may ask, and if I will go to the very fast to if I can go very fast. Right, perfect. If I can go to this map, as you can see, this holds right here, and I will also mention this one here, Moravlasie, all in Romania, all in former Dacia, all close to Sirmium, are the only one at the moment, the southernmost ones, that actually combine denarii with Siligua from Constantius II, because the other ones further north, even on this map, if you look, they have no Siligua at the moment, only denarii and artifacts, some of them. But here, it's kind of a buffer zone, or in a kind of mixing zones, where they accept also Siligua, adding to this Roman denarii. I won't be surprised if we talk about bullion, because the Siligua are still of good silver fineness, which will go with the fashion for Roman denarii, Roman cast the cast imitations, but not the Antoniniani of pure silver. You see, it's exactly the same fashion. Okay, we take the Siligua because it's good silver. It goes with the rest as a bullion, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense
Exactly.
because after 200 the quality of the silver declines, and I might add that I did see Professor Bursze at the Coining Values conference in Bonn the year before last. He's very helpful.
Oh, exactly. He's brilliant in this point. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Cristian, thank you again for this fantastic presentation. We have another question for you. So, from Adam Philippidis, were the cast coins cast from worn originals, or did they wear down from fresh casts?
Well, this is a very good aspect, because at the moment I can't give you a certain answer, actually, because well, don't have the coins, of course, because of the legislation. So I will stay based on photo, and I need good photos from other cast imitation from hoards from North, because I have to be honest. I thought I will have the coins brought to me and take them to my very good friends from Atomic Physics Laboratory to make non-invasive metallurgical analysis. However, because the museum didn't pay the bonus to the guy, now the guy has sued them in court, so I can't get the coins at the moment to make the analysis. So either I will get good picture of other cast coins from other hoards, hopefully from Alec Bourget or Kirill Muzgi, or I will have to wait until they finish the trial in court, and then I will be legally allowed to get the coins for analysis. I'm sorry, I can't answer directly this question. I know it's a vulnerable point to my book, probably among others. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Thank you again. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, I will ask my question then, which, I mean, I've already asked you in presence, but I think this is interesting for perhaps everybody else to know. So your idea is that then you have these imperial coins that are then hoarded and used by non-Romans. Probably they were used also during the time of the Roman province, and we can discuss this. And these ones that you find are, of course, part of the Chernyakhov culture. So basically the ones in Romania are actually the Western part of something that was much more of a phenomenon, much more on the East. But so basically, what do you do on the contrary about the Republican coins, which were on the contrary circulating in the same area, and of the imitations of that? So it's a completely separate phenomenon, of course.
It's absolutely separate phenomenon. I didn't want to insist on that one because I don't want to keep all night long people here. That the phenomenon, which I have to be honest, already Crawford and Rees, and more recently Chris Lockyer, were focusing on this aspect about why in God's name you have so many Republican hoards in pre-Roman Dacia than anywhere else on the territory of the Roman Republic except for Italy. So the problem is, I think we should go much further back in time when the territory of Dacia, I wouldn't start with Republican one, but I would start with the imitation of the Greek tetrarch. Because the Dacians, apparently, they never wanted to have their own coinage, or depends how they refer to imitations as their own coinages. It sounds so Romanian fashion. We counterfeit everything even nowadays, don't worry. So, it's with the 4th century, immediately, well, when you have the Greek colonies on the Black Sea, Tomis, Istria, Calatis, immediately you have inside, in the mainland Dacia, you have already a lot of hoarding of tetradrachms from Thassos, for instance, Artemisia type, and then suddenly in the 2nd century you have a large amount of hoards, always hoards, very few single cases, when you have terrible imitations But in good silver, sometimes the analysis show that the silver in the imitations done by Dacians of the Greek tetrarch of Philip II or Alexander, they're better in the silver content than the genuine ones.
Mhm.
Then, when the Greek mainland becomes province under Romans, and we have now the drugs of Apollonia and Dyrrhachium spreading in the Balkans, guess where we have the largest number of hoards of Dyrrhachium and Apollonia in all Balkans? In Dacia. Clearly imitated by the Dacians. So you see, we always adapt ourselves for the stronger currency on the market. Of course, starting with the 80s BC, what's next in Dacia? The Roman Republican denarius. And now it's quite clearly we have a strong contact, but at the same time, we have something new. Now, when you look at the tetrarchs and you look at the drama of Apollonia in Dyrrhachium, you immediately spot out the imitation because of the barbarous style. Something happened with Republican denarius. And as Chris Lockyer demonstrated, now not only that it's more difficult to identify imitations, but because before we always rely that, oh, the imitation means it's something different, a bit different from the genuine type. Now, based on metallurgic analysis and metal analysis done by Chris Lockyer, he demonstrates that even denarii, which are perfectly done after prototypes, they can be imitations. So the Dacians moved from terrible design imitation to perfect imitation. Why? I'm not sure I know the answer here. But it's quite clear that something happened with the economic mentality of counterfeiting, if we can call it counterfeiting for Dacians. From our point of view today, yes. But Dacians, I'm not sure they were ever thought about counterfeiting. It's something illegal. So next, now for the Roman Republican denarii, the fun part is that we found the coin dies in two important Dacian fortresses. And when we look at them, oh, they are just perfect imitations of genuine prototypes. And in 2004, in North Transylvania, we have the proof that actually they were having an excellent technique also for casting Republican denarii, as proved by an unfinished denarius found in a Dacian citadel. So, in fact, at some point, Crawford mentioned the reason for so many hoards was the slave trades. I know may not sound politically correct nowadays, but that's what he said. I quote him. Nowadays, it's quite clear it's not that, because now we know it was a massive, large producing quantity of Roman Republican denarii. And the best we have nowadays with police and international cooperation, as we know now by 60,000 gold coins produced in one place at Sarmizegetusa, the capital of Dacians, joined by hordes of 5,000 and 6,000 each Roman Republican denarii at the same place. I'm afraid that our idea about what in God's name a Dacian coin production meant is far from a solid explanation. Because it's clearly they have a massive reproduction of Republican denarius here.
Thank you for this fantastic answer. Yeah. Anyway, there will be much more to discuss. Now we'll let you go back to your Friday night with your family and friends.
Well, it's Friday night in Transylvania. I should start flying.
Flying, of course. Yes, exactly. I didn't want to say anything because, yes, I wanted to be correct. But yes, so I'll let you fly around with your family and friends then.
Good. Thank you so much again for inviting me, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cristian.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.